Jam Session is a podcast where two guys who grew up in Dallas-Fort Worth discuss sports, craft beer, life, and their experiences living in one of America's most vibrant cities. If you love sports, you're going to love this show. If you love craft beer or you're curious about it, you'll love this show. Great conversations with good friends is what Jam Session is all about.
Welcome. It's nice to have you here. I hope you enjoy it. I think you will.
You're listening to the Jam Session Podcast.
I was told that I could listen to the radio at a reasonable volume.
With Cowboys insider...
What's your name?
Jean-Jacques Taylor.
That's my name.
Radio personality and craft beer expert, Matt McLaren.
He's a very strange young man.
He's an idiot. Comes from upbringing.
And now, the Jam Session Podcast. It is indeed Jam Session. Subscribe, rate, and review, and hang out with us for a while right here on the Jam Session Podcast. The moment we've all been waiting for has arrived. Ladies and gentlemen, the radio, TV, and now podcast star, the sexy Jean-Jacques Taylor.
What up, dog?
I would be the non-sexy one, Matt McLaren. And this, my friends, is Jam Session, the podcast, version 56, asking simply that you prepare to be dazzled,
if not entertained.
As always, let's tell you about our very good friends with Blue Star Motor Group. Perhaps you are looking for a new car I mean to yourself, because this is where Blue Star Motor Group comes in, specializing in superior quality, Carfax certified, pre-owned vehicles of all makes and models. I know this, anytime we have the weather that we're going through, there's people that get out and drive, and there's been some unfortunate wrecks, but there's always like fender benders or little things that you don't see happening. Maybe it's time to upgrade. Maybe it's time to replace. Blue Star Motor Group. This is where you need to go. Call Deb, 817-881-4066. You can check them out online at bluestarmotorgroup.com. You can see their Instagram. They have photos of their inventory, the lists, everything. And as we've said many, many times, one thing that's great about this, it's local, family owned, and when you call them, you are talking to the people that own the thing.
Ain't no middleman or woman. You can get straight truth and straight answers right from Deb about how they can do it and what they can do. And that, to me, is the best part of it. That, and you can get that luxury car after letting somebody else take that initial hit. I've done it. I loved it. You will too. It's
the way to do it. So check them out, bluestarmotorgroup.com. Also, of course, if you have been involved in something lately and you realize, man, I need some work on my car. And, weather like this is always weird on cars, I feel like. And maybe it's just general mechanic work, or you feel like you want to get your car ready for the rough patch of weather that we're about to go through. Check out our friends, JR and his crew over at Freeway Tire Shop right off of 35. Just north of downtown Dallas. They have been taking care of Jam Session listeners for a while now. They'll take care of you. And again, maybe you need a new set of tires. Maybe it's an oil change or an inspection. All these things that all of us at some point have to have done to our cars. Freeway Tire Shop is where you need to go. Very competitive pricing, and they offer a discount for Jam Session listeners, so make sure you let them know that you heard about it here. Elite customer service. They'll take care of you, man. You can check them out, again, online. If you are looking for a quote or you would like to request an appointment, you can do so at freewaytireshop.com. But make sure you get your car taken care of. It's like anything else. There's so many things about your car that if you just regularly get it serviced, it'll last longer and end up being beneficial to you as time goes by. I learned that at a very early age.
Dude, I learned it after blowing 2 engines.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where somewhere along the way you realize, if I don't peel out, if I start braking a little earlier, if I get my oil change regularly, it's amazing how much longer things will last, especially when you have to start paying for it yourself.
Yep, and I've been trying to pass that along to my dude at a rapid rate.
So make that happen again, freewaytireshop.com. We're going to start you off today with those Dallas Mavericks because it looks like, and this is a stretch we talked about, you're at home for 8 straight games. You've got a chance now to maybe get a little bit of a rhythm going. And again, we're recording this on Thursday, February 11th. And last night they had that fourth quarter come from behind win at home against Atlanta to win by a point over the Hawks. That makes it 3 in a row. and 4 out of 5, and all of a sudden we are starting to see this team. I mean, yeah, you could point and go, well, they got their ass kicked by Golden State a few nights ago. Well, ever since then, they've kind of righted the ship, and we're starting to see a little bit more of what we expected, at least offensively.
Yeah, and I think it's actually listened to some of the game on the radio last night as I was leaving my class at SMU, and I was listening to some of the post game with Chuck Cooperstein, voice of the Mavs, and I think he had Willie Cauley-Stein on, I think. But they were talking about just how now that everybody's back together, they've had some time to play together, they can kind of finally get into their role, get into their rhythm, find a groove, and figure out a way to – and this is the thing that I wanted to hear most. Just play consistent basketball, because if we do that, we're good enough to win games.
Yeah, and we're seeing that. And you and I had both wondered, and this was a conversation we've had a couple of times, of how long is it going to take for these guys that missed a chunk of time to come back, start feeling comfortable with themselves, and then once that happens, for them to start feeling comfortable as a team. And when you looked at this stretch of games, it just made sense. You're either going to do it here or you're not going to do it. Because most of the teams that you're playing, you're better than. I mean, you just are. And so it gives you an opportunity to get some momentum as you get rolling forward. They've still got, I think it's 3 more in this stretch here. And
yeah, they got the Pelicans on Friday, the Blazers on Sunday, the Pistons on Wednesday, and then the Rockets the following Friday.
And I mean, dude, the reality of it is you're better than the Pelicans and you're better than the Pistons. Portland, I don't know. We'll see exactly where they're at. Obviously, they're better than you in the standings. I think that's a good gauge of how much you've kind of gelled and are doing right. But you should at least win 2 out of those 3. And then Houston, obviously, is another team that you should beat. And you look at that, and as you start going through these stretches where you're winning 3 in a row, or you're winning 4 out of 5 like they have, then that's how you overcome this really rough start where you're still under 500. You're currently 11th. I mean, as wild as it is, they're 26 games into this thing, and they're 11th. But, again, you look at it, and you're 2.5 games out of the 5 seed in the Western Conference.
Yep, but that's just how tight it's bunched, though. So you still don't have a lot of wiggle room. We're now a third into the season, and so I try not to overreact because it's not critical. And there's no must wins right now, but there's a whole lot of need to win and want to win and like the wins. And last night was one of those. I mean, that'd have been an awful loss to the Hawks. You know, they're a bad team. And to lose to them at home, I mean, those are the kind of losses that at the end of the year when you're sitting either out of the playoffs or in the play-in tournament or in the 7th seed or the 8th seed, talking about, oh, great, now we can win and get a chance to get eliminated by the Lakers in 4 games. Those are the types of games you look at, man. Like, these are the ones you got to win so you can move up and, try to avoid the Lakers or whomever until the last possible moment.
Yeah, and again, as you watched this or you listened to it or however you consumed it, maybe like me, you're just watching a lot of highlights and reading about the team quite a bit since they apparently still don't give a flying F that we can't easily get their games. It's really weird because I was at a brewery the other day and I was like, hey, I see that you guys have the AT&T, whatever it was. I was like, that means you can get the Mavs games. And they go, oh, no, even though we have that, we still don't have the package. We'd have to upgrade. And I just thought, how sad this is that this is continuing to be a problem, and they do not give a shit that the fans, the vast majority of fans, do not have access to watch these games. It still blows my mind.
They actually give less than that. They give less than that. They don't care at all. And so it's up to you, the consumer, to figure out how much you care. And Matt and I have, I am a bigger basketball fan than Matt. He's probably a bigger Mavericks fan than me, although I love watching Luka. So
right, that's a good way of putting it. Yeah.
And so and to do my job, I'm going to be watching all the games. But they don't make it easy.
No, not at all.
They don't make it easy at all. And so what happens is, and I've said this before, and I'm not breaking any news, you have to be dangerously careful about when you give people an opportunity to dismiss your entertainment value, because people have so many distractions. And here's what I'm talking about. Now, Matt and I have gone back and forth on this 1,000 times. And there's, as I like to say, there's no right or wrong answer. It's just what it is. Like, I have IPTV. So I can look at the Mavericks game every night if I choose to.
Right.
But guess what that means? I have to jump through an extra hoop to do it. There's so much going on. And because the Mavericks are not just scrolling through, I forgot the Mavericks are on today. You stop at the game or whatever. Dude, I haven't watched a game in about 3 or 4 days. 3 or 4 games. I've been watching highlights like you and doing some more reading. Why? Because they're not in my conscience anymore. And we're just talking about 26 games.
Yeah, man.
So imagine at the end of the year when they haven't been in your conscience like that, how easy it will be to go, the Mavs are on tonight. I'll check the highlights and, check them out whenever.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I mean, it really is the fact that they're going to go through this season and just not care. And I just don't understand it. I really don't, because all it comes down to is money between billionaires fighting about money. And it just goes to kind of show you that at the end of the day, they just don't care about you. And that's the way that I've interpreted it. And if you don't want me to consume your product, then I won't consume it. I've said that, and that's where I'm at. And, I've had you all right there?
Yeah.
Okay, that was a weird noise. I didn't know what happened. But I had this conversation with somebody the other day. They're like, man, I'm right there with you. Because what happened? A lot of us had PS View, and then PS View went away, so we all jumped to YouTube TV or wherever else. And then all of a sudden, now you're telling us, well, now if you want this, and I've talked about this many times, I'm really at a point where I don't even need YouTube TV anymore. And once I get rid of that, I don't know that I'm going to go back to anything else. And that's where, I'll go back in the fall because I like to DVR the college football games and stuff. But I'm sorry, man, in a world in which there's so many different options, I'm reading the box scores. I watch the highlights. I pay my whatever $5 a month or whatever for the Athletics so I can read all the Mavs coverage and see what those guys are thinking. But it just sucks to not be able, unless they're on national television, to be able to consume the Mavericks. But they've decided that's what they want to do. So I'm going to support them in doing that by not being able to watch them.
Yeah.
But I will say last night and in the last couple of games, they shot over 50% from the field last night, which is good to see. They shot 40% from the three-point line. And if they can get to, this is why they were so good last year. I remember before the beginning of the season last year, at the beginning of, the 2019-2020 season, Mark Cuban, might have been the first day of the season, comes in studio with us when we had the radio show, and he flat out told us if we shoot 35% or better from the three-point line, we will go to the playoffs and we will surprise people. And that's exactly what they did. And part of the problem with this team is when you are one of the teams in the NBA that shoots the most threes and you rely on it like the Mavs do so much, when they dropped that 5% in three-point shooting like they have for the first 25 games or whatever it's been, you're going to lose more than you win. And so if they're going to shoot 40% from the three-point line like they did last night, that's when they start winning a lot more of those games. They've got to find a way to hit that 36, 37% that we saw last year. And if they can start consistently getting those shots to fall, then that becomes a big difference. And we've talked about that. We're missing Seth Curry, even if it's what he brings from a three-point perspective. Luka is having these guys with open shots, but they don't have anybody that's standing out there draining threes anymore.
Well, the reason why what you're talking about last night is exactly what you want to happen. Finney-Smith, 2 for 4. Kleber, 2 for 3. Richardson, 2 for 5. Hardaway, 3 for 5. That's perfect. The problem is, last night Luka and Porzingis didn't hit, but they take a lot of threes and they still take a lot of bad threes to me. So if you continue to take good threes and you continue to get those guys wide open looks, your percentage should creep closer to that elusive 35, 36% mark.
Yeah, really, the outlier is when they got their ass kicked a few nights ago by Golden State because they shot 40%, but Golden State was just out of their minds. And so you look at it in their last 4 games, 40%, 44%, 35%, 40%, and they've won 3 of those. They've won 3 in a row while shooting 35% or better from the three-point line. And that's one of those things with this team is that generally speaking, when they are at 35% or better, they've only lost 3 times this year when shooting 35% or better. Problem is, it's only happened 10 times. They're 7-3. And so, they've got to, if they can start consistently hitting their threes better, again, as a volume 3-point shooting team, you're going to see that change. Luka had another triple-double last night. I think it was like 28, 10, and 10. We're seeing some positive signs. Now, yes, they're playing shit competition, but who cares? Maybe get yourself right during this stretch so that when you have to play, and, like I said, Portland, I think, will be a good test coming up, but the schedule's obviously going to have some tests on it as you go through the Western Conference.
Yeah, I think it all feeds off one another. The more you move the ball, the better shots you get. The better shots you get, the more you hit them. The more you hit them, the more anxious or eager you are to play defense so you can get the ball back. I mean, it all works together. Just like when you don't hit the shots, you aren't as eager to play defense, and the other team has a layup line. So, I think the key to all of it is ball movement, good shots, and the rest of it will take care of itself.
Now, the other thing with the Mavericks has been this weird-ass play the anthem, don't play the anthem thing where, and I thought this was very interesting personally, that there was a massive freak out when people realized the Mavericks aren't playing the national anthem before games, and yet somehow people cared so much about it that nobody realized they'd been doing it for their first 12 home games.
We talked about this in my SMU class the other day, and here's the deal. One is they were doing it when there were no fans in the building, so there was no fans to question. And then reporters, and I'm not taking shots at anybody by any stretch, because I learned this myself, and it's one of the things I teach but one of the things I teach my students is, as a reporter, you have to understand everything happens for a reason, and you got to find out the reason. And 99% of the time, the reason is, no big deal. It's that 1% of the time it is a big deal.
Yeah.
And so it struck me as odd that nobody asked, hey, what happened to the national anthem today? Oh, we're just not going to do it until the fans come back. Yeah, or whatever their response was going to be. And that's how I got to go 13 games until somebody simply said, hey, you guys haven't played the anthem. What's up with that? But I got to tell you, man, when I heard the news, my initial thought was, okay, interesting. We'll see how long this lasts, because I know how this thing works. And it works the same for every sports team and every sports league, from the best team to the worst team, from the most marketable team like the Cowboys to a team nobody gives two hoots about in whatever league you want to talk about. It works like this, man. You do something and the advertisers and sponsors either say nothing and you continue to do it, whatever it is that you're doing, or they say, the hell is your problem? Dude, we'll be pulling our advertising money if you don't stop whatever you're doing, whatever that is. Now, flip it to us, since we now own a podcast and we have advertisers and we have sponsors. If we did something so egregious or perceived to be egregious that the 8 to 10 sponsors we have each sent us a text message and a phone call that said, y'all better fix that, or we're yanking our sponsorship agreements, Matt and I would sit down and have a long talk about, hey, bro, do we really need to change, or are we willing to say, hey, no, we stand on principle. We're going to do whatever it is that they're upset about. And that's a very simple conversation, man. Either you agree, yeah, okay, we'll do it. Or you go, nah, we won't do it. Because people just pull their money, and money talks. And money, to me, is always the ultimate thing that you follow.
Sure. And
the NBA sent their memo out. Why? Because NBA sponsors told the league, I don't know what's going on in Dallas, but if y'all don't figure that out, Corporation X is pulling its $27 million this year.
Right. These situations I always find fascinating because I don't think that Mark Cuban directly cares about that. And I've said this many times where he'll follow the league procedure and he'll do whatever the NBA has asked, for the most part, what is best for the league. But as far as, and this always cracks me up, like on social media, there'll be posts and people will put, well, I'm done with the Mavs. I'll never watch a Mavs game again. He just doesn't care. They've shown that with the Fox Sports thing. And the reality of it is, for a lot of owners, and they're not all this way, Cuban certainly is, he doesn't care if the Mavs make money. That's his toy. That's like me and you when we play Madden or play a video game. This is his video game. He's super invested in it, and he wants to win, and he wants to be a champion, but he doesn't care if they don't make any money. He makes his money and his billions with all these gazillion other investments that he has. That's where he makes money from. This is like his toy. And so you can agree or disagree. It's just, it's so crazy to me that it's gotten to a point, and I'm not breaking any news here or anything. And this anthem thing, it's instead of people saying, well, I just disagree with that, here's why, it's double birds to you, I'm never watching again. Like, we just immediately go to the extreme instead of trying to have a conversation or express, hey, I disagree with this. I don't want you guys to do this. And to your point, if enough fans actually, it's like the Cowboys, if enough fans legit were irritated that Jerry won't hire an actual GM, or if enough fans were pissed about or whatever it was, and you legit impacted it at the gate, then maybe you have a chance of some change. But until then, and that's never going to happen, because keep in mind, let's say there's 1 million Mavs fans around the area. Let's say this pissed off 20,000 of them. That's 2%. The other 98% don't give a shit.
Nope. You could take it one step further. It's the same reason we talked about why did the NFL put in these punitive rules that forbid holdouts and stuff. Because only 1% of players hold out. The rest of them are like, man, I can't afford to hold out. I just got to take what I get. Otherwise, they'll kick me out of the league. Mm-hmm. And so the 98 who voted on that thing, the 98% were like, well, that doesn't apply to me. So, yeah, if the owners want that, the owners can have that, because that doesn't apply to me. And it's the same thing that we're talking about here, that the vast majority, it is what it is.
Yeah, and I've never, play the anthem, don't play the anthem. I just don't see what difference it makes, honestly. Okay. Before a sporting event, I don't know. Yeah,
I mean, I'm not ready. I'm not going to die on that hill. I'm pretty much like Matt, play it, don't play it. But I would challenge you to do this, because I've done this before. If you're one of those people who says it absolutely, positively should be played before sporting events, that's cool. I got no problem with you if you're on that side of the discussion. But do this. The next time you're at an event, high school, college, pro, it doesn't matter. While you're listening to the national anthem and standing and staring at the flag, turn your head around and look at everybody else. And you'll be shocked at what other people are doing, which is not paying attention. Mm-hmm. Buying a hot dog, getting a beer, talking to the girlfriend or boyfriend, it's whatever, a million different things, which takes us probably to the last point of this discussion. That was some serious BS by the Stars trying to grandstand. Especially, they put out an email about, we would always, I'm paraphrasing here, the Stars will always play the national anthem. It's a beautiful thing before a game.
You know why? I'll tell you why. Because everybody wants to scream Stars at the top of their lung twice during the anthem. That's why. Exactly. I'm serious. And there are people that, and I have heard this, like if you go somewhere else that's not in Dallas and you go to a game that the Stars are playing in and you do that, the looks, I've had people say things to me. I saw a Stars game in Nashville and I would yell out Stars like you do here in Dallas. And somebody said, what are you doing? Because they think that's disrespectful. But in Dallas, it's okay. Right. So we all pick and choose. That's the way the world works. And I just have, it's strange to me that now in this world, when things bother somebody or they disagree with it, it's immediately just let's fight and I'm going to try and go to this super extreme and blow up social media and make sure everybody knows. I mean, it's just, I don't know what happened.
That's because you can't have a regular conversation and debate and dialogue anymore.
That's what I'm saying. And I put this out once when we talked about the anthem before. Look, if that's your thing and you find it disrespectful, then by all means, stand up and put your hand over your heart or whatever it is that you feel like you need to do and just focus on your own self and allow other people to focus on their selves. I don't understand why we got to yell and scream about all this stuff. And I've always thought this, and I will say one person, because I posted once on Twitter, I said, how many of you, if this is such a big deal to you, when you are at home and you're watching from the beginning of a broadcast, and because they a lot of the time show the anthem while you're waiting for the game to start at home, how many of you at home stand with your hand over your heart for the national anthem? Because nobody does. I've never in my life seen anybody ever do this. And one guy said that he did. I said, okay, you know what? Fine. I'll believe you. But you're one out of however many. Most of us, when we are watching a game at home, while the anthem's playing, you're talking, maybe you're running around doing whatever it is that you're doing. For whatever reason, it's only in person. Like if you're in person around a group of people that, now you need to stand and be like this, otherwise you're wrong. I've always thought that's really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, the bottom line is we're just a country where it's my way. It has to be my way, and my way is the majority way. Because you made me think, and I've thought this before, and it always rubs people the wrong way. And I'm talking about people in general. Like, I've had arguments with people in my family about this. Because sometimes, I just like to start it up, And,
just to see what happens.
Well, yeah. So,
you're the Molotov cocktail conversation guy.
Right. I mean, I'm not even going to lie about it. Sometimes I do it, but
Jeez.
We were having a conversation one day, and some of my relatives, some of them a little older than me, uncles, aunts. Yeah, you know what's wrong with our country? No, what's wrong with our country? We took prayer out to school. We need to bring prayer back into school. We need to bring it back. And I said, you know what? I think you're absolutely right. I think we need to have a Christian prayer and a Muslim prayer and a Jewish. What? Huh? What? Yeah, Jewish prayer, a Buddhist prayer. Let's expose our kids to all these different religions. Jacques, have you lost your mind? I was like, wow, you want everybody to do a Christian prayer. What about those people that aren't Christians? I mean, and nobody thinks like that, bro, in general. It's just my way. Like, how would you feel if you had your Christian child doing a Buddha chant? You'd go crazy. Well, why do you think those Buddhist parents want their kids having a Christian prayer? But nobody thinks like that. I mean, it's.
I've always wondered why we let the actions of others affect what we do, because it's out of your control. It's to me such a waste of time and energy to focus that much of what you have in your world on something that you have absolutely no control over. Like, just focus on what you can control. And if you do that, then you're taking care of yourself and you're doing what you believe in, whatever it is, as long as it's not hurting other people. I mean, physically hurting people or becoming a detriment to somebody else. Then what difference does it make? So what if somebody else does something? You're like, oh, well, I wouldn't do that. So, okay, so don't do it.
I mean, we take that approach with everything else. I don't want to live in that neighborhood.
Yeah,
I want to live in this neighborhood.
I
mean, I have no interest in living out there. It's too much traffic. It's too congested. I like to live over here where there's more, the lots are bigger and there's more space. And I mean, but I'm not mad at you because you choose to live over there, wherever there is.
Yeah, people just need to legit just, chill out a little.
Chill out.
Just relax. And again, for real, I mean, seriously, if you will just, what are you into? What are you about? And live that and stop focusing so much on what else is happening around you that you can't control, we'd all be way better off. I mean, some things you just have to chalk it up to, well, nothing I can do about that one, but here's what I can do. I tell people this all the time. You cannot control what happens to you, but you can control how you react to that.
Oh, sounds like Maddox has heard that before.
I'm sure he has. So that
dad speak right there.
It is, and it's very true as well for all of you that needed to hear that today. Also, I tell you what, and this is a great example of this because you can control this. Your foundation is no different. You cannot control if your foundation is starting to have problems, but you can control how you react to, I see cracks in my ceiling. I see sloped floors. I noticed I'm having soil washout. You can control what you do. You call HFX Foundation Solutions. 817-770-0174. HFX Foundation Solutions, A-rated with the Better Business Bureau. You can check them out online at hfxfoundation.com. That was a great segue because it actually is true. I mean, there's so many different things like this that happen in life where you're sitting there going, oh my God, oh no, I think I have a foundation problem. Okay, well, don't freak out. Call HFX Foundation Solutions, allow them to come over for the free inspection, and then they'll work with you to make sure you can find a solution. That's called controlling your reaction. See how it works?
Yeah, bro.
Teachable lessons for everybody. Online at hfxfoundation.com. Another one. See, this applies to everything in life. You may be sitting here, maybe you're like me, and as you've aged, you've started to realize, man, at some point I should look into retirement planning, or I don't know anything about stocks or bonds. I joke about diversifying my portfolio. What the hell should I do? Well, you can control how you react to that by calling Lauren Laddig. See? This applies to everything. I feel like I've discovered something brilliant for all of us today. Edward Jones financial advisor, Lauren Lattig. She can work with you whether you're a small or large business, an individual, whatever it is, whether you're looking at retirement planning, 401k rollover, stocks and bonds. When it comes to the world of your finances, Lauren Lattig is the expert that you need. You can call Lauren at 972-563-6364. Again, that's 972-563-6364. It's funny because she sent me an email yesterday, and her offices are out in Terrell. Now, no matter where you live, she can connect with you virtually and help you out over the phone, do different things. So it doesn't really matter where the physical location is. Right. But I was telling her, I was like, when I was growing up in Rockwall, we only had the DMV open on Tuesdays. And so when I was in high school, everybody, unless it was a Tuesday that your birthday was, everybody went to Terrell to get their driver's license because they were open every day. Yeah. And so I was like, yeah, I've been to Terrell a bunch of times. And she said, yeah, I think you've talked about that before. See, I really do listen. And she's a big fan, man. She's a fan of Jam Session, supports us a lot. And we ask you guys to support her as well. So give her a call. Lauren Lattig, 972-563-6364. But now that we've learned, I think we're all learning here. We're controlling our reactions. We're figuring some things out together as a podcast family. I am absolutely fascinated by what we are about to experience in the Dallas-Fort Worth area as we take a trip around the block here. Local guys talking about local things. We are about to go through some of the most insane cold that I think I've personally ever experienced. Because, and I'll check it right now, and it may change because, again, we are recording this on Thursday, February 11th. On my Weather Channel app, I go to my Weather Channel app, and I've been doing this constantly because the temperature keeps dropping. My birthday is Monday, February 15th. Right now, the forecast for Monday, February 15th is a high temperature of 15 degrees and a low of 3.
Wow.
With a 44% chance of snow. And they are saying that there is a very good chance on Sunday and Monday that we could get a few inches of snow because Sunday the high is 25, Monday the high is 15 with a low of 3. And I am fascinated by this because I don't think I have ever in my lifetime, and I'll tell you this, if we get that low, most of the people listening to this, if you grew up in this area, you've never experienced temperatures in the 3 degrees.
Is that right? Really?
Yeah, that would
never been that cold here.
The all-time record for cold in Dallas-Fort Worth happened in 1899. It was -8. There was another time where they recorded -2. I mean, we're talking 3 degrees is one of the probably 5 coldest temperatures that'll ever be recorded in this area.
It just seems like I've been through that before. But I mean, maybe I'm, maybe I'm getting my time in Columbus mixed up for a few days. Or, we weren't. When the Super Bowl was in, where was it, Matt? Minnesota. That was just 3 years ago. Because I think you and I went to Houston and Miami, right?
No, we went to, where did we go? We went to Atlanta and Miami.
Yeah, Atlanta and Miami.
Right.
Well, the last Super Bowl I went in was, before you was Minneapolis.
Right.
In the dead of winter. And so, yeah, it was single digits every day. And people walking around in short sleeve shirts, man.
Jesus.
I'm not even exaggerating, bro. Because in Minneapolis, yeah, it's cold. It's 7 degrees, but they deal with those negative temperatures on a regular basis.
Right.
So 7 to 10, that can feel balmy on a given day. So maybe I'm mixing that up, or some time I spent my youth in Buffalo.
So I just looked this up because I was curious. So the all-time lowest temperatures ever recorded in the history of Dallas-Fort Worth. As I mentioned, it has only been below 0 4 times in recorded history. One of those times we were all alive for. Now, I don't remember this. And you know what? Actually, this might have been when we lived in Mississippi, but we would have come back here for Christmas. It was December 23rd, 1989. The recorded low temperature was -1.
Really? Now, my suspicion is I was here during Christmas break, winter break, with from school. So I was probably here for that, but I don't have any recollection of it.
The only other temperature in our lifetimes that also was around that was the day before that in 1989, December 22nd, 1989, the recorded low temperature 3 degrees. Only 9 times in the history of recorded DFW temperatures has it been 3 degrees or colder in Dallas-Fort Worth, and we are about to experience one of the all-time 9 coldest temperatures this area has ever seen.
Well, can I tell you something, Matt? I think that's way overrated, bro.
I don't know, man. I'm kind of excited about it for some reason.
Yeah. Emphasize some reason, because that stuff is overrated.
I don't know. I always feel like, okay, if it's going to be 3, why not just go for the record? Why not get -9 and see what that's like just for one day? Let's set the record where we can all sit there and go, man, remember that winter of 21, -9? Damn.
I'm not about that life, bro.
But I feel that way in the summer with the heat. When it's like 111, I'm like, well, damn, why not go 113 and tie the record? What's the difference? What's another 3 degrees?
Yeah, heat doesn't bother me like that. I don't feel as oppressed with the heat. The cold, I just can't. I just got no use for it.
Yeah, I remember, I guess it must have been 2011 that had that summer that was up there with the summer of 1980. And yeah. I remember we were on a streak and we were going to break the all-time record for consecutive 100-degree days. And we had one day that hit 99 and then went right back to 100. I was like, that is so dumb. Like, we could have experienced a record streak, but I mean, nobody would have noticed the difference between 99 and 100. I was like, I wish that day had been 100. So we had 69 out of 70 days in a row that hit 100 and that one day that didn't hit 99.
Hey, man, bees like that sometimes.
I know. Weather, I don't know. Extreme weather is crazy to me because I worked out yesterday out of my driveway when it was like 30 degrees. And man, I feel like my neighbors must have been looking out their window going, what is that dude doing?
I'm talking to you thinking that.
Well, I have to, man. I work out in my garage and on my driveway. So I just bundled up. I put on a bunch of layers and just did what I had to do.
That's why I said you're a grown-ass man, because I had a hard time I didn't do it today. I had a hard time getting from the gym parking lot into the gym yesterday. It was so cold to me. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm here, so I'll make this walk to the parking lot. But it was no joke, man.
Yeah, I mean, and again, those are just the normal temperatures with wind chill. The forecasted wind chill for Monday is like -8.
Wow.
Because we are going to have 10 to 20 mile an hour winds with a temperature somewhere around 3 degrees. Think about that.
I'm not going to. No.
So everybody enjoy that one.
Yeah,
elsewhere, another local story, and this is an interesting one. You may or may not know this name, but Whitney Wolfe Hurd. And how in the world is your name Whitney Wolfe and you marry a dude whose last name is Hurd so that you're
going for marketing? Your
last name is Wolfe Hurd.
I'd have been more impressed if she'd married somebody like Robert Pack.
Yeah, and her name was Wolf Pack.
Yeah.
But Whitney Wolfe Hurd is a former SMU student who graduated from SMU. She is about to become the youngest woman CEO ever to take her company public when Bumble, the dating app Bumble, hits the Wall Street, the New York Stock Exchange on Thursday with an initial stock price of $43 a share and a company valuation somewhere in the neighborhood of $3 billion.
Okay, you tell me, because I've been married so long, dating apps were never an option for me. Why did Bumble hit when others have not or did not hit to that degree?
Well, so Bumble
special.
And apparently this woman was one of the co-founders of Tinder, which is the same idea. And I think Bumble had such success because on Tinder, it was everybody could match with everybody. And when you matched with the girl, you could message her 5 million times. On Bumble, the genius thing about Bumble is when you match with somebody on Bumble, like if I was on Bumble and matched with a girl, I cannot message her. She has to message me first. And so, right. So the woman initiates the conversation. And so when I was single, I would find for the most part that the people who are a little bit more, not just like I could be wrong. I mean, I haven't been doing this in a long time either, but you look at Tinder, I think more as a hookup app and Bumble more as I'm actually looking for a relationship because the woman says I'm interested enough where I'm going to start the conversation.
Oh, that's interesting. So dudes, as much as I could like you as much as anybody, but unless you give me the A-OK with the conversation, it ain't going anywhere.
Right, exactly. Like you would have to, we can both hit, right.
All right, that's actually okay. I see why that works because I got to tell you, man, we can be some dogs. You know, and we just, I mean, look at these managers in baseball a couple weeks ago sending people 100 texts, 50 texts, 60 texts. Talk to me, talk to me, talk to me, talk to me.
Right.
So, yeah, I see why that works.
Yeah. And you know, I have spent time on both those apps and I've gone on dates with people that I have met on each of those apps. They are do what?
Are they free?
Yeah, they're free apps, or at least they used to be. I think now you may have to pay to have the ability to do certain things on there. I don't know. I will tell you this. I know several people because Bumble has expanded and they offer Bumble BFF. And so for younger people now, and this is, I don't really understand it, but it doesn't apply to me. Bumble has BFF where you can get on Bumble and say that I'm a 23-year-old girl or guy, and I just graduated from college, and I got my first job in Seattle, and I'm going to Seattle where I don't know anybody at all. Well, on Bumble BFF, you can get on there and just look for people that maybe have similar interests, and if you match, you can meet just because you want to be friends. And I know a few people, actually several people, that have made some really good friends from Bumble BFF, you know, where like two girls, for instance, that just, I'm new to this city and I don't know anybody and I'm looking for somebody that likes to go to a brewery. You know, would you be interested in hanging out and being friends?
Wow. That seems so weird to me.
It seems weird to me too, man. But I'm telling you, I know for a fact some people that have met like best friends on that and that's how they do it.
I guess.
I know it's really interesting, but you know, if you are growing up in that generation where you are used to texting all the time and you're used to those types of conversations and that's how you're used to meeting people, you know, you think about it like you and I would think, well, we would just meet somebody at work or, you know, maybe somebody in your apartment. I don't know. However you would meet people back in the day. And now, I don't know. I think people, they just get on these apps and have these conversations and end up having friends that way.
Of course, you know, let's advance it and think about it. And I could see why this would work because think about it from moving forward from here on out. You know damn well people are going to be doing more and more and more virtual work, more and more work from home. Your interaction with people is going to get less and less and less as everything becomes more automated. You go to the grocery store and you no longer say, wow, the cashier's got a great body or she's got great eyes or he's got great eyes. Nope. You're checking yourself out or some computer is checking you out. You go to Amazon Mart, you just go in there and pick up your stuff. You never see anybody. Listen to Matt tell it. Hell, you don't even go to Amazon store to pick up anything. You order it and some drone drops it off to your virtual house and you never interact with anybody. And so maybe this is a way that people over time will evolve because just your limited interaction once you get out of college, you know, and you join the workforce, you just don't run into that many people.
I guess so, man. I mean, there's something to it, but I know that is a very popular way for people in their mid-20s to meet friends and find groups to do things with and just meet different people. I don't know. That's one of those things that when I find out about it and I hear about it and I see that it works, I go, man, it's official. I've gotten old.
Well, I was going to tell you, man, I've been having a lot of impromptu conversations with my dude lately about topics like this in terms of, you know, we were having a conversation the other day. I said, dude, just use your head. I said, don't become one of those kids from your generation that can't think because you're so used to doing this. Or we had another conversation where I asked him a question and he looked at me and he literally said, well, Dad, I just don't know how to verbalize that. Now, this was not a hard question.
Right.
And I said, well, that's exactly your problem, dog. Because you're so used to texting a response that you can't verbally. I said, so let's go through it. And again, this wasn't a big deal by any stretch, but I was like, let's go through it. Let's verbalize it. Since you say you don't know how to, let's just walk through the points. Tell me point 1, and he did it. Tell me point 2, and he did it. And then we got to like point 6. I said, see, you can verbalize. Your lazy ass just didn't want to because you're so used to texting and not talking.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot to that, and we'll see how it evolves over time, but that's what's so interesting. And I do think, hey, how cool is that what started as a dating app only for people to meet and do whatever with has now evolved in different ways. I think there's like Work BFF where, there's all, or Work Bumble or whatever. There's different ways now. People connect on LinkedIn. People will message each other on Instagram now. And there's all these different things that this new generation finds ways, because we all want to be connected. They are just finding different ways to connect than how you and I, of course, came up through things, which is fascinating. Now, as we continue, I want to tell you, of course, about a couple more of our sponsors. Man, those wings from Kroger, dude. Absolutely fantastic. Jacques and I were telling you, we had some last weekend while we were watching the game. Wings from Kroger, available at most North Texas Kroger locations. And, I forgot to tell you, I got an air fryer. As I mentioned, my birthday is on Monday, and so my mom for my birthday got me an air fryer, and I haven't used it yet, but wings from Kroger is going to be on my list as one of the very first things I want to throw in there and see how they come out.
All right, and that's good. See, I haven't told Matt this, but see, now that he's got an air fryer, we can have frying with the Frenchman segment at his house. Then I can just go over there and cook it, and he can sample it and say whether it's good or bad. No, frying with the Frenchman, man. We're going to do that a couple times a month. Matt's like, really? We haven't talked about. Hey, sometimes you need to break news on the show, man.
Yeah. So, well, apparently there it is.
I've got a stockpile of recipes up, and we'll start with the wings from Kroger.
Indeed. Mango habanero, buffalo blue cheese. If you haven't tried them yet, again, you can look through our Twitter timelines. Tons of people have tweeted at us the pictures of how much they enjoy them. You can find them, again, at most North Texas Kroger locations. Just go to wherever the meat section is. They're fresh. They're not in the frozen section. They're not prepackaged. You have to tell the dude, hey, man, wrap me up some of those wings. Mango habanero, buffalo blue cheese. Perhaps you will be enjoying them this weekend. Also, of course, our friends over at False Idol Brewing Company. Now, I've started hosting trivia every week, so most of you, if you're hearing this on a Friday or later on, then it's too late, because I host trivia at False Idol in North Richland Hills on Thursday nights at 7 o'clock, general knowledge trivia. Although I'll tell you this, I'm doing a theme next week, John Hughes movie trivia, because John Hughes' birthday is February 18th. Of course, he passed away a few years back. But John Hughes did all these movies like Ferris Bueller's Day Off and Breakfast Club, Pretty in Pink, She's Having a Baby, Uncle Buck, Great Outdoors, Some Kind of Wonderful. So I'm going to do a theme trivia on those movies at False Idol next Thursday at 7 o'clock. But I'll tell you this, man, they have a stout that they just tapped called Nutty Fluff, which is a hazelnut marshmallow stout that is absolutely fantastic. They also, and hopefully they'll still have some of it on tap this weekend, they had one called The Wire, and it is aged on Amburana wood, which is a Brazilian wood that gives off the wood. They don't add anything to this other than just having aged it on this wood that gives off a gingerbread like cinnamon type flavor. And it is awesome. I had some of that earlier this week. It's fantastic.
Is that like having it in a barrel?
Well, you can age it on just like the wood chips.
Really?
Yeah, where it takes the flavor out of it. It's not a bourbon barrel age. It wasn't aged in any type of bourbon or whiskey or anything like that, just on the wood itself. And they aged it for 3 weeks. It's absolutely fantastic. A couple of really nice stouts that are on tap right now. And they also have one of my favorite double IPAs they've put out. It's a hazy double IPA that they dry hopped called Meditate. That's super soft and full of juicy flavor, man. And it is definitely worth it. I know they've got some 4-packs available at the brewery over there in North Richland Hills. So swing by at some point. Check them out. False Idol Brewing right there in North Richland Hills. As we do each and every week, time once again to check in with longtime Cowboys beat writer from the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, brought to you by Soda Weight Loss, the greatness of Clarence Hill Jr. joining us here this morning, or whenever you're listening to it. I always say this morning, but with the podcast, who knows when people are listening. But how are you, Chill? What's going on in your world?
Man, I'm trying to stay warm. It's freezing out here, and it's only going to get worse. It looks like, it's going to be single digits on Sunday and Monday.
I know, man.
Did you know that? Yes,
I did know that, which is wild, because I was actually thinking, I've been watching the temperature on Monday, and it keeps, like, every time I check, the forecast high keeps going down. And then, like, the low is supposed to be, like, I don't know, like 4 or something like that. And I was like, man, I kind of want to wake up and experience it when it's 4 degrees.
No, I'm good. I don't need to do
Because
that.
I don't think I've ever experienced temperatures that cold before. I'm kind of curious.
Well, I mean, experience in one way. Do you want to wake up in 4 degrees, are you going to go outside, or are you just going to look through the window? I mean,
no, just like wake up, go outside for a few minutes and see, okay, like how cold is, like I can't comprehend how cold 4 degrees is.
Yeah, no. The only time I want to be when it's cold, if it's snow on the ground, you go play for a little bit, but just cold without any without any snow, just cold and ice. Nothing's good about that. If we're talking here today on Thursday, there's a 75 car pile up in Fort Worth. We can't drive in this weather. We're not used to this weather. It's only bad things can happen for Texans when they get this cold.
That's very true. I would agree with you. It's very true. For some reason, ice just shuts our world down in this region.
It's all the bridges, man.
Yeah.
It's all the bridges made of metal. And, we got all these mixed master things, bridges 20 feet high, 30 feet high, all made of metal. Ice and metal don't go together, man. So, we get shut down.
It's not just the bridges, it's the people, it's the drivers.
Yeah.
Because, people are driving too fast. They don't know how to brake. I mean, if you see some of the images and people are, why are they driving so fast? Understanding that it's the bridges, understanding there's ice on the road, it's inconceivable. What's going on out there, and it just continues to happen. There are wrecks all over the metroplex.
Well, as much fun as it is to talk about snow and ice, we haven't talked to you since the Super Bowl that we saw a few days ago. What was your takeaway from Super Bowl 55 and what surprised a lot of people with that dominant Bucs defense winning the game?
Yeah, I mean, anybody, there were people that picked the Bucs to win. I didn't see. I was under the belief that Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes was unstoppable. But even the people that picked Tampa to win, no one saw this. No one saw 31-9. No one saw Tampa holding Patrick Mahomes scoreless. He's never not gotten into the end zone since he was starting quarterback, going back to high school, college, pros, never not gotten into the end zone. And they kept him out of the end zone. 3 field goals for the Tampa Bay defense holding that explosive Kansas City offense. And one thing that, I kind of wrote a story earlier this week, what the Cowboys can learn from this. And what we found out, the lessons that we can have learned from Tampa is that the old way is still a good way. You win with defense. Defense still wins. We've gone through this time, these ages when, it was the Rams offense was going to be the greatest thing, going to revolutionize the league. And now the Kansas City offense, going to revolutionize the league, and this is the way you play football. And everybody's hiring all these offensive coordinators and all this stuff because we got to be multiple and we got to have all this motion and shifts. We got to be passing the ball all over the yard. That's the way you win. And it's like when the Patriots shut down the Rams offense and Tampa Bay shut down the Kansas City offense. You win with defense. You win with defense. And on the flip side, you look at, what Tampa Bay did on offense. They ran the ball. They did play action pass. They threw the ball to the tight end. They didn't throw the ball down the field. There was nothing fancy. It was all, they didn't turn the ball over. They ran the ball. They did screen passes, play action passes. They won the football game in a dominant fashion.
I'm going to respectfully disagree with that. I'm going to respectfully disagree with that because you're being a prisoner of the moment. That's how they won that game. But I'm going to speak to your bigger point, which I think you just didn't get around to illuminating. Your bigger point is that you win with coaching. And coaches, and what I mean is Todd Bowles loves to blitz. He would blitz your mama. he will blitz his mama. But at the moment of truth, he said, as much as I love to blitz, blitzing ain't going to help me beat the Chiefs. So I'm going to back it off, and I'm going to trick them, and I'm going to do some other stuff that they don't expect. It's coaching, ultimately, that matters. I mean, because the Bucks been going deep all year, no risk it, no biscuit. But this week they decided for us to win, we're going to take a different approach. And so I think it's the coaching that we ain't seen a lot of good around here, and what the Cowboys can lean on and learn from the most.
Well, if you'd let me finish, you wouldn't have to disagree, because part of my story was coaching and was what Todd Bowles did on defense. And it's not just about, it's not being stubborn. It's about being adaptable. It's not being,
yes.
That's what coaching is, being willing to change, because the reason the Kansas City, basically blew their doors off in the regular season meetings, because they did blitz, and left those corners out on the island and everything else. And so he changed how he plays the game. Todd Bowles likes to blitz, but he did not blitz. He's a blitz-happy coach. He didn't. He rushed a 4-man rush, played 2 high safeties in the background, in the back of that defense, and got to the quarterback with the 4-man and had those athletic linebackers. Now, I agree with you. Coaching matters, but players matters too. And what we also learned is that safeties matter. Tampa Bay invested in a safety, that made plays. Those linebackers, those hellacious linebackers running to the ball and cover things. Those type of players matter. They were able to do that. Todd Bowles was able to run that defense and change, because he had talent on that defense, from the front 4 to linebackers to the back of the defense. They got talent. The Cowboys have to value defense again. They have to get some playmakers on that defense.
Now, we're going to let Matt into this, but me and Clarence been having these types of arguments.
I know, I like it. I'm as entertained as anybody else listening right now.
You said the Cowboys have to value defense again. When have they ever valued defense? Maybe the Parcells era, but that team didn't win enough games.
The Parcells era, the 90s, I'm just saying, but lately they have not valued defense. They valued offense. They've invested in offense. They have not invested in defenders.
This is true.
With through the draft or even in free agency, they have not invested in defenders. You have to value defense, and value defensive players. It was almost like, the attitude is the defense is going to be complementary to the offense. We're going to, it has to be more than that. It has to not. Yeah, we're going to invest in offense, but we need to just have a defense that just can hold up just a little bit, because we're going to, be so great on offense. We don't need greatness on defense. Well, you do need greatness on defense. They need great players, or they need difference makers on defense. And so, I think that's important.
Yeah, I was gonna say, can we really say that if they spent $100 million on DeMarcus Lawrence, they took Leighton Vander Esch in the first round, they took a risk on Jalen Smith, but then as I said that, I go, well, they did let a cornerback who was amongst the best in the league, if you pay attention to people who study these things, walk out the door.
Yeah, but see, as you said that, yes, they drafted Leighton, and you said they took a risk on Jalen Smith. They were betting on the cheap. They weren't really investing. Okay, they took a risk because they were trying to, and that's the problem is they try, and which is the one reason why they take chances on guys who got issues. Because they try to win on the cheap. They try to bet on the cheap instead of really investing in those guys and in those positions.
Now let me ask you something, because you just made me think about something. Doesn't happen often. You said they always try to get by on the cheap, and you gave us several different examples. It just dawned on me: is that what they're trying to do with their quarterback too? Now, see, I would argue with Todd Archer because he said, "But Taylor, they offered him this much money, but relatively speaking, that's still trying to get by on the cheap."
No, I don't think they're trying to get by on the cheap, because they did offer him $35 million. I mean, that ain't cheap. That ain't chump change, no matter how you look at it. They did offer him $35 million. But, they're still not trying to do it the way they should do it. They're still trying to not give him, his full worth. Because even if you look at the $35 million where they invested it,
ain't that getting out on the cheap, though?
even looking at what $35 million where they offered it, the guaranteed money was less. The guaranteed money was $100 million when those other guys were getting 110, 120 million in guaranteed money.
Right.
So
okay,
as
Matt.
I was going to say, I mean, you guys good? Everybody's still friends, of course.
No, we're good.
Of course. But, to your defensive point, Chill, is that something that with the draft coming up, we always say never draft for need. Obviously, you follow your board, but is that something the Cowboys have to be cognizant of when they go into this draft coming up, whether it's at the number 10 pick or making 5 defensive picks, that they've got to restock this defense and upgrade the talent?
Taco Charm.
Yeah, I mean, again, what's crazy because if Kyle Pitts is on the board, I'm looking at Kyle Pitts. But
jeez.
Okay, this is twice in 4 weeks he'd have brought up Kyle Pitts.
But I mean, you got the draft has to be about the defense. You have to use those picks and pick defenders, and then there's certainly a thought process that if offensive tackles there, with Tyron Smith getting, up in age and having his injury, maybe she's the best offensive lineman. But you have to find difference-making defensive players in the first 3 rounds.
See, I'm gonna respectfully disagree with that too.
This is great.
And I say that because I'm taking a Taco Charlton approach, meaning if there is a guy worthy of if the two well, that's what I'm saying. Because if the 2 cornerbacks are gone at 10, well, then I feel like I might be stuck. Like I'm not going to draft somebody at 10 just because I need to fortify my defense, and I'm not trading back to draft a lesser player just because I need to fortify my defense. Now the good thing is they will have dabbled just a little bit, just a teensy weeny bit in free agency before the draft. But the point is they got to fortify the defense. The reality is, I don't think this is a draft that brings those types of guys, difference makers. Now, maybe you luck into one, but this ain't a draft where we look at it and go, "Oh yeah, this guy should be this," and this.
Well, the bottom line is you got to upgrade the talent on defense, and you start that way to the draft. We know that they're not going to be able to do much in free agency because of Dak Prescott's contract situation. So that they have to upgrade the talent on defense. And that should be the primary focus.
I respectfully agree with that.
Finally. Yeah, the draft is going to be interesting this year, man, because it is one of those things. I mean, I agree with you, Chill. I mean, if Kyle Pitts is there, whoever it is, I've always been follow your board or what's the point of having one. But, man, this fan base, if it is an offensive player like that, they will freak out.
Not if it's Kyle Pitts.
Even then, because people will say, well, great, what are we going to do with that? You didn't fix the defense. I mean, it'll be not that the Cowboys have ever cared about the fan base. I mean, as long as they keep buying tickets, who cares what the team looks like? But that would be fascinating on draft night if they take an offensive skill position player.
Well, the bigger question, and we're going to delve into this, in the days and weeks to come, if they don't get a deal done with Dak by March 9th, do you consider a quarterback for the 10th pick?
Not if he's not going to play this year.
Well, okay, I'm just saying it's something we have to delve into.
I'm just saying that.
He may not play this year, but Dak's going to play, but Dak could be gone in a year. And then, then
we'll
you're
draft
left with
the quarterback next year. We'll draft one next year. Quarterbacks don't have to sit and marinate like they used to.
You won't have the 10th pick next year, Mr. Taylor.
Yeah, you might have something higher. Who knows?
I was going to say, do we know that? Do we know that?
You won't be in position to get a quarterback. And for what I understand, the quarterbacks coming in future years or next year are not of the ilk that's on the table this year. So, all that stuff to be considered. And as I said, those are things that, we will have to continue to talk about in the days and weeks to come.
And nobody had Mac Jones as being the first-round pick when the season started.
Yeah. Well, my thing is with that is if you're taking a quarterback at 10, that means that you're just letting somebody fall to you. If that's the route you're going to take, and like you said, Chill, you would know by the time the draft comes around, then to me, if that's what you're going to do, then you figure out whatever it is you've got to do to go get the guy. It's not going to be Trevor Lawrence, of course. But I don't like the idea that you sit at 10 and you go, well, Fields is gone. Trask just came off the board. Oh, Mac Jones is here. I guess we'll just take him.
Listen, I just said this is something you have to think about because if Dak's not done and he's a year from walking away and you're going to be left empty-handed, those are some of the discussions and conversations that have to be made.
Hey, Carson Wentz may have been cut again by then, so he might be available.
Yeah, this draft is going to be a fascinating one to see because of a team that has so many holes, what they're able to do. Like you said, it's almost as if they've allowed this Dak contract situation to hold them hostage a little bit in the ability to make some moves and do some other things.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating, and buckle up because it's going to be Dak talk. Some about Dak. Every week, every day, somebody's going to come out the woodwork with some tape. From here on out.
Now, did you think after further review, big deal, a little deal that he wasn't in the hype video?
Oh, it's not a big deal because I understand how it happened. I understand the people that didn't put it together don't make enough money to make those decisions. I know that Steven and Jerry don't know how to put up together a hype video, and beyond that, they're not trying to send a message to Dak that, oh, because you're not signed, we're not going to put you in the hype video. No, there's nothing to it important about it. There's no way the Cowboys are trying to send a message to a guy they want to sign. They do want to sign him. So there's no way they were trying to keep him out. It was a mistake. It's a regrettable mistake. It looks bad, but it was a mistake, and there's nothing more than that.
Yeah, I would say it definitely looked bad. It was a mistake, and we'll see where it goes from here. But as always, Chill, thanks for the very feisty conversation today. I highly enjoyed that with you guys.
All right, thank you, man.
All right, see you guys.
All right.
I'm going to stay, Matt.
Yes, sorry. I said, see you guys. I just, that version of y'all, that was funny because I was still here. Don't worry. But just like many of you listening, I was doing the exact same thing with the smile on my face, enjoying it just as much. I mean, I'm going to respectfully disagree. And then I was like, this is awesome.
We literally have been having those conversations for 25 years because what happened, Clarence used to cover high schools.
Yeah.
And then I was on the Cowboys. But at that point in our lives, it was a group of us, 4 or 5 of us, used to get together at somebody's house and watch Monday Night Football. And we'd be watching Monday Night Football. Now, Chill has not changed. And he would be saying, hey, y'all need to ask about this on the Cowboys. Why they doing this? That don't make no sense. And I'd say, dude, maybe one day you'll be able to go out there and ask a question, and you can write all this shit you protest to know right now. But he would do that every single solitary week. And then he got on the beat, and I called him up and said, hey, Doc, guess what? All them damn questions you ask every Monday night, I want to make sure you ask them same damn questions every day. Now, it took him about 5 years to get started. Now, he would lie and say he got started right away. But then he became the guy and like he is now, ask all the questions that he would ask while we were watching Monday Night Football. And that's why he's a good reporter, because he'll ask you the question and challenge your answer.
So I thought this was interesting because in our notes, you had put, it looks like your son has nailed down his first ever job, which obviously is one of those life milestones that everybody always remembers.
Well, he sent me a text yesterday that told me I needed to spend a bunch of money. And then he said, oh, by the way, I think I locked down this job at Walmart. I think that was his way of softening the money blow. But this is an adventure that started probably about a month ago when he walked in the house one day and he said, hey, I applied for a job today. Oh, really? Mm-hmm. Where at? He said, oh, I went to Walmart. Oh, okay. A couple of us went. Oh, okay, cool. It's whatever, man. And then I said, so you trying to get a job? I mean, that sounds like a dumb question, but it's more, did you go because your boys went and you just like, oh, I'm here, so I'll fill it out? Or you like, I want some money. I want my own gig. He's like, no, I'm trying to get a job. I said, oh, okay. So I gave him a couple other places to go because I believe you want to, like, I wouldn't, like, he told me I'm not working at any fast food place. I said, good idea, because he got his daddy's fat gene, and he's worked this hard to get in great shape, and he's like, I don't want to go any place where he can eat. But he likes tennis shoes, so I told him, hey, to go check out Dick's, because we got a friend up there who might be able to get him mine. But whatever. But I think he's going to end up at Walmart, and I think it's good, and I think the reality of it is he got tired of being broke. or asking his dad for some money anytime he wanted a couple dollars.
Fair enough, I would say. I think it.
I mean, is that ultimately why you got your first job?
No,
Or
I
did
mean,
you get it
honestly,
for another reason.
I got my first job because I was basically told that you got to get a job. Like that was expected of me, I think, for a variety of reasons, to where, once I had a car, I think kind of the importance of work ethic and that not everything in life is free, that type of mentality.
Right.
Of, okay, well, if you're going to have a car, you need to pay for the gas and some other things like that. I mean, my parents paid for the car insurance, I believe, but I was responsible for just kind of understanding that you've got to pay some things in life and have some bills and know what that means. And, if you're going to go wherever it is you want to go with your friends, well, you need to have the gas money and some other things to be able to do that. So, yeah, that was part of it, but I knew that I was going to have to get a job when I turned 16. And my very first job was it's in a different location now. I think I've mentioned this before, is at Kroger in Rockwall. Kroger used to be where the 24-hour fitness is, in the parking lot over there where El Chico is in Rockwall, right off of 30 and Ridge Road. And that was my first ever job. I sacked groceries there for about a summer, I think. I remember what happened. I forgot about this. It was, I believe, from the time right after I turned 16, as the year was winding down, I got a job at Kroger and I was a sacker. And in the middle of the summer, I wanted to go to church camp. So I put in to go to church camp at Kroger. Like, hey, I need a week off or whatever. And Kroger wouldn't give it to me. And so I was like, well, this is ridiculous, because I'd already signed up for camp and all this. And so they let me go. I forgot about this, and it became a thing where I think what the story was is my parents were like, well, this is stupid. I mean, they're hiring high school kids who are 16. They have to realize they go on summer vacations and stuff. Like, these aren't adults that are working for you, And I think my dad made a call to somebody, and then the guy who ran that Kroger offered me my job back. And I was like, no, I'm good. Because I thought the whole situation was ridiculous, like so stupid.
Well, it was. It's called no common sense. And that happens to a lot of folks.
Right. And so from there, I ended up working at Luigi's Italian Cafe, which, again, for those that are familiar with Rockwall, is not the Luigi's where it is today. It used to be in a strip center in that parking lot where it is now. It's a standalone building now. And that was wild, man. I mean, that dude, those guys that ran that place, this is before the current owner owned it. And man, they were like straight out of Italy and told me these stories about how they had left Italy after a gunfight at a poker game. And they had work here now and were running this. And dude, it was shady as shit, man. I kid you not. When I walked in there, I was like, hey, I saw the help wanted sign. And they're like, oh, you want to work? You are hired. And I was like, well, what? Like, you can start now. I was like, and so some dude that I went to high school with is like, hey, just come back tomorrow. Can you start at 4? And I was like, okay. Never filled anything out. Never filled out any information or tax forms. Showed up and worked, and they paid us in cash. That's a real story, dude. I'll never forget this. One day, because they used to sit after we would shut down the restaurant, we would clean the restaurant up, and they would sit and drink beer while they watched us clean. And one day, this dude's name, this story freaks me out, so I'm not going to say his name, but damn. This is back before Rockwall. Rockwall used to be a dry county, and this is before they started having alcohol available in the county. But the Chili Mart right across the county line was where everybody would go to get alcohol. So he comes to me after work at night and he goes, Matt, we are out of a beer. You have to take me to Chili Mart. And so I take him to Chili Mart. The dude turns up my speakers so loud in my car, one of them blows out. And he proceeds to tell me about how I pissed him off and he doesn't like the way I look at him sometimes. And he goes, I don't like the way you're looking at me. And dude, this is real. I was so freaked out. I dropped that dude back off and never went back.
Is that right?
Yes. I never got my last money that they owed me. Nothing. I never went back, ever.
You tell your dad? Or you just never went back?
I don't know if I told my parents or not. I think I said, hey, like, I can't go back there or whatever, and I'm getting another job or something. I can't remember what happened, but I never went back.
Wow.
Scared the shit out of me, dude. They were crazy.
I gotta tell you, my first job was not nearly as dramatic. It was my first job was the result of Matt, and most of you guys have heard about my shoe fetish by now. Well, it didn't start now. It started in high school, and I'll never forget it. I wanted these gray loafers. They had a square heel on them. That was all the rage back in 1982. And my mom said, "Yeah, I'll get them for you." And then we went to the store. And as parents, we've all experienced this now. She said, "I'm not buying you any $100 shoes." I said, "But you said you'd get them." She said, "Well, I didn't think they were going to cost that much. I'm not getting those." And I looked at her sadly. And then I said, "So I guess if I got a job, I could buy them?" She said, "You get a job, it's your money. You do whatever you want to with it." And I said, "Well, I want to start working." And at that time, my mother was managing McDonald's. She had left education and was managing a McDonald's.
Yeah.
And she said, "I can get you on a 6:30 shift next Saturday morning if you want to work." And I said, "Yeah." And so I started working. Now check this out, Matt. You could never do this today. I was 14 years old.
Wow, man. Yeah. No, that's
like
young.
my dude is
Damn.
having a hard time getting a job at 17 because now they want you to be 18.
Oh, really?
So I was 14.
Wow.
Yeah. I was 14 working, and I loved it because I loved having my own money. I loved not asking anybody for anything. And so, yeah, it took me a long time to save the money up for it, but I eventually got the shoes. But that's when I started working, man, and I've been working ever since. The funny thing is, I got so used to working, and then I started working at the Hilton Anatole now. And so I was one of the richest kids that I knew, because I used to make about $100 a weekend, either at first being a valet, then being a bellman. Then I used to make about $150 a weekend cash. And then I always like to say, Matt, what did I spend it on during the week? Nothing, because I was going to school every day.
Yeah.
So the money just stacked up. And so I always had a bunch of money. I could do whatever. I mean, I felt like I was rich for a high school kid. And I'll never forget it, man. I went to college, and my dad said, "Hey, I want you to focus on academics. I don't want you working. I'll give you some money every month so you don't have to work." "Oh, okay, great. How much you giving me?" "I'm going to give you $50 a month." And I said to myself, I've been making about $600 a month. 50 doesn't really seem like a lot to me. And I said, but, in my mind, I'm saying, well, let me see how it works. Because, again, I'm going to college.
Yeah.
I'm living at home, blah, blah, blah. So my dad hits me with that first 50 spot, man. Matt, I promise you, that thing was gone in 2 days.
I bet.
And I came back about a week later and said, "Dad, check this out, man. I ain't going to be able to abide by this. I'm used to having my own money. I'll go get a job at like the newspaper in town, so it'll be, something I can, something that's helpful for me."
Yeah.
I go, "But I got to get a job, man. I just can't be sitting around here asking you for money. I can't roll like that."
Yeah, fair enough, man. I mean, high school jobs are wild because it's funny you said that your son about to work at Walmart, it sounds like. I worked at Walmart for 2 weeks. And this was after the Luigi's fiasco. And again, old school Rockwell people will remember this. Before they built Super Walmart, Walmart was in the space where Hobby Lobby is now. And that's the Walmart that I worked at. And I'll never forget, I got my vest, I got my little name tag, my little Walmart name tag and all that. And I don't know if it's still this way, but when I was hired at Walmart, I worked the stationery section, which apparently meant, and I kid you not, I was expected to be on one of 2 aisles that sold stationery the entire 8-hour shift that I worked.
Really? I can only imagine you being limited to 2 aisles in the Walmart.
And so you would walk up and down, you would make sure everything was stocked, you would ask, "Hey, if somebody, do you need help?" "Yeah, I'm looking for blue pens." "Oh, here you go." "Oh, thanks." "Hey, I need some paper." "Oh, it's right there." And so, I was like, man, this sucks, whatever. But here's what happened. This is, man, it's funny how I remember all this. One day, whoever was above me, the shift leader, the manager of that area, whatever it was, tells me, "Hey, we have a project, and so let's start that, and it'll probably take you most of the day." And he showed me how to do it. And I remember looking at him, I said, well, and I can't remember exactly what it was, but I was basically like, well, if you did this and this, we'd be done in like 2 hours instead of 8. And man, that dude just looked at me and just goes, well, that's not how we do it. And I looked at him, I said, huh.
More around.
Yeah, and I just could not process that was my life, and that I just took off my name tag. I took off my vest. I put my vest on the shelf. I carried my name tag, and I just walked out the front, and that was it.
I can see you doing that, man. I can see you doing
and
that.
I think I told my parents when I got home what happened, and my dad said, well, okay. So where are you going to work now? And I went and got a job, and this is where I worked for the rest of high school, starting at the beginning of my junior year. I worked there all through my junior and senior year of high school. I worked at Video Village, which was a video store in Rockwall that is the one that I worked at used to be where the Party City store is now, over by, man, everything in Rockwall has changed over the years. But it's funny because I'll never forget, I wanted to work there so bad, and they finally hired me like literally like the week after I did that with Walmart, which it timed out really cool. But the quarterback of our high school football team worked there. You know, popular guy. Everybody knew who he was, right?
Right.
And so one of my first shifts, I had to work with this dude. And I was, at the time, I was in all the plays. A lot of people at least knew my name. And so this guy, I'm working with him. He goes, oh, he's like, so what's your name? And I was like, Matt. And he goes, oh, okay. I go, what's your name? And he looked at me and he's like, Andy. And I go, okay, cool. And he goes, do you go to Rockwall? I was like, yeah, I do. I was like, do you? And I'll never forget, like, he looked at me like, how does this guy not know that I'm the quarterback of the football team? He's like, yeah, man. Yeah, I go to Rockwall. I go, oh, huh. I was like, are you in anything? Like, do you do anything? And he it was this weird, awkward silence. He goes, I mean, yeah, I'm the quarterback, man. I'm the quarterback of the football team. I go, oh, huh. Well, that's cool.
Dude, how can you be that self-absorbed? I mean, I guess I know how you are.
I mean, come on, man. Come on. It's Rockwall, Texas. Are you kidding me? I mean, back then, I think we were 4A school when I was in high school. And even though we sucked, I mean, everybody treated the football play. I mean, we've all seen Friday Night Lights.
Yeah, that's what I said. I guess I figured that out. But
right, man. I mean, it was so awesome. And eventually it finally got into a conversation. I remember having this conversation with him because he was like, oh, yeah, I think I've seen some of the shows that you've done. He's like, how do you do that? Like, how do you get up in front of all those people? And I was like, well, I don't know. And I think I threw a slide out. I was like, well, you know, you got to think that there's a few hundred people in the theater that it can seat. So I guess that's more than go to the football games these days.
Jeez.
Oh, man. Even at 16, I could talk some shit, I guess. But those were fun. I mean, fun. You know, that's such a fun time of life because you are making your own money. But it was nice to have parents who were so supportive where it's not like if I didn't have a job that I wasn't going to be able to eat or pay my bills or anything like that. But it really, I think, honestly, established a work ethic in myself at that early age. And, you know, and seeing how hard my dad worked and stuff for our family and whatnot, that, I mean, quite honestly, I've carried with me to this day where I've always been able to grind and make it happen and do things that, you know, I've always kind of had that mantra to some extent of sometimes you have to do things you don't want to do so that you can do things you want to do.
Oh, yeah, my dad repeated that 1,000 times while I was at Ohio State with him. I think it's so once he secures a job and he tells me that, but he went up there the other day, so somebody must have told him something that sounded good to him. Then I'll have a very brief conversation with him about how to be an employee because he's never been one before. And so I don't think you can, you know, some things you just have to tell him just so he knows. Like my dude is, he's a very interesting dude, but he's a very laid back guy. Yeah. And even though he'll do whatever you ask him to do, sometimes he can appear so laid back that you appear to be, you don't care. And I was like, you got to make sure that doesn't translate. You can be cool and you can be relaxed, but you gotta work with some urgency in terms of being an employee and stuff. Even when he was looking for a job at a tennis shoe store, because I told him, I said, put a lot of applications out, man.
Yeah.
because you never know who's going to hit you first. And so I asked him, I said, are you an extrovert or an introvert? And he said, well, I think I know the difference, but tell me. So I told him. He goes, oh, I'm an introvert. I go, okay, well, if you work at a tennis shoe store, you're going to have to fake being an extrovert, right? He goes, oh, yeah. I said, okay, because you're selling shoes, and you can't sell shoes being an introvert. So stuff like that, just so, he represents himself well and has a good first experience. Although, I don't know, hell, Matt walked off a couple jobs as a teenager, and he turned out all right.
Yeah. I think, and this is what I've loved about my parents, that I think, and my parents, and they are truly wonderful people, and they were wonderful parents. And one thing that they did that I've always thought, and I don't have two kids, I only have the one, but I've always been fascinated by it as I've gotten older, was that they understood that my personality and what I wanted to do and be in the world was so much different than my brother, and that it was okay for me to do certain things that would not be okay for him, and vice versa. And so it wasn't like we both had the same expectation levels as far as performance in school or job or what have you, because they just managed each of us in a sense, parented each of us, parenting the child without it being this is our parenting philosophy and, sucks that your personality doesn't mesh with it.
No, that's absolutely what you should do.
Yeah, which man, it was just awesome. I had such an awesome experience in that realm as I aged and went through high school with all of that. And man, at some point, I mean, we could talk about this. Will turn into a 3-hour podcast. At some point, we should get in, because I have had so many different jobs, and some of the job experiences that I had when I was in college will rival the stories that I have from the ones from high school. I mean, one of them, Nick and I, for years, said we would write a movie about it. It was that. I mean, we had names for each of the characters. Some of the stories, I mean, I've got to tell all you guys that story. And so at some point, because we're about to slow down a little bit, and as we get in that gap where there's not a lot going on with the Cowboys and whatnot, we'll tell some more of those stories as we go through life, because they're awesome. But
Let's do it.
That's a good first job story. But as we continue, there is some stuff around the NFL that we wanted to get into. And some of this, again, I've said this, I mean, this is probably the 10th podcast I've said this on. Much like I'm fascinated by the experience of single-digit weather, I'm fascinated with the offseason the NFL is about to have as far as it pertains to the quarterbacks of the NFL, because we are about to perhaps see a transference of quarterbacks that we have never experienced ever. Usually it's, like Phillip Rivers is old, and so he's going to go to a new team, and then some guys will get drafted. We are seeing guys in their primes, guys that some believe are some of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, that are going to change teams. That's never happened before in an offseason.
No, and it, what it does is, to me, it sparks a certain level of excitement, because you're not sure how these quarterbacks will operate in their new environment. Some will be better, some will be worse. The problem is, or the issue is, we don't know who will be what.
So we've already seen, I was trying to think, we've seen Matt Stafford obviously got traded, which is surprising enough in itself. Deshaun Watson, who knows what's going to happen there. The Texans are continuing to act like they're not going to do anything, which I think is ridiculous. But now, all of a sudden, and I did not see this one coming at all, man. Apparently, the Seattle Seahawks are pissed off at Russell Wilson, and there is some belief somehow. I can't imagine that Pete Carroll would allow this to happen, but there is a thought out there that for the right price, Russell Wilson could be had.
Well, I think, now this is just me. Russell Wilson puts off this vibe like he's this aw shucks, howdy doody, kind of super duper good guy.
Right.
And to me, it's all fake. In this respect, you can't, now just follow me right quick, Matt. You can't be this howdy doody, hey, everything's great, isn't this a wonderful day today, I'm just living the life, and then say, hey, by the way, Mr. McLaren, if you don't get my deal done by April 15th, I'm going to walk out of here. Have a great day.
Right.
And don't forget, that's what he basically did to the Seahawks when it was time for his contract to get done. He basically told them, I'm going to give you till, I think it was like April 10th. If you don't get it done, we're not talking again, and then I'll be trying to leave. And so you can't be this howdy doody dude and then fire that off like that, like it ain't nothing. He's more of an Eddie Haskell guy, which is the fake Eddie Haskell.
Yeah, that's it. Yes.
So, yeah.
I've heard of that person, like, believe it or not. I know who you're referencing.
You're like, who and what is an Eddie Haskell? And to that, all I'm going to say is Google Leave It to Beaver. Yes, that used to be a TV show in black and white. And Eddie Haskell was a guy who acted real nice around his best friend's parents and then treated his best friend's little brother like crap anytime the parents left.
Yeah, you could never name a show Leave It to Beaver today. You just couldn't do it. You know, the other thing about Russell Wilson is apparently he went on the Dan Patrick show and said...
I heard it.
Yeah, he did. He went on there, but apparently they're pissed because of this, that he said he's frustrated and he gets hit too much, and he's not sure if he's available in a trade. Dan Patrick says that he has a source that says the Seahawks aren't happy with Russell Wilson and his camp for taking this to the media. You wonder if they're going to be able to coexist. The current situation is not sustainable. That's what I was told.
And, you know, the question is, what does that mean? If it's not sustainable, there has to be a resolution to the situation. So what is the resolution? Is it Carroll's gone? Is it Russ's gone? Is it Russ gets more say? Because it sounds like Russ wants more say in personnel and coaching. And that's just I get what he's saying, but to me, man, it's always a dangerous precedent to set because we all know that players don't always know what's best for them in terms of personnel. Right. I'm serious. Yeah. That's why when you I told the story on the show one time. You're walking around the locker, because I saw this with my own eyes. They're putting together the NFL top 100 player list. And the guys are asked to fill out a sheet with the top 100 players. They can't fill out 20, man. And there's one player who's no longer with the Cowboys. He's walking around filling out sheets for guys. And they're coming to huddle with him like, okay, who's the top players, man? So they don't know. They just know they're boys. Mm-hmm. Or their friends, or their boys are their boys. So I understand what Russell's talking about, but I don't know if you want to give a player that much juice. Just like, I really think the best teams have a coach and a general manager. General manager finds the players, works in conjunction with the coach. Tell me what you like, tell me what you want, and then I'm going to go get it for you, as opposed to a coach who can pick his own players. Bill O'Brien.
Yeah, it's just a fascinating situation because I would think that there's no way that Seattle would move on from Russell Wilson. Like, he would strike me as the guy, unless, like you think, maybe he's just super fake and all the people that they're in the Seahawks hierarchy are going, okay, well, we know this dude and we got to get rid of him. I just don't know why you'd walk away from a guy that is an MVP candidate year in and year out and has shown that as long as he's there, you've got a chance to be a Super Bowl contender.
Yeah, I think that's the reason you want to keep him. But we've seen, man, these quarterbacks making power plays, and what happens is they can make your life so difficult, so uncomfortable that you end up trying to figure out, how to maneuver and how to make a move. Because here's what I'm talking about, man. Everything Russell Wilson said on Dan Patrick's show, and I heard the interview as it was going on.
Yeah,
it was 100% calculated. It was 100% said to draw a response from the organization. And, I had a conversation with the Lovely Lorraine the other day, and I think it'd be interesting if it'd be interesting to hear Russell Wilson's answer to this question, which is the Lovely Lorraine had a complaint at a restaurant. And I said, okay, before the waiter comes back, what is the result that you want?
Yeah.
And so, Russell Wilson, you got a complaint with the Seahawks. Okay, that's fine. Everybody's got complaints. Matt's got complaints with me. He wants me to quit moving around so much.
That'd be nice.
I got complaints with Matt, and I'll keep them to myself.
Awesome.
And so you ask yourself, okay, Russ, Danger Russ, what is it that you want? And that's the question that has to be answered. Because until that's answered, it can't be worked. It's like when you go to marriage counseling. You sit down there, okay, what do you want to get out of this marriage counseling?
Yeah.
Sometimes the answer is a divorce. I'm just coming because she asked me or he asked me to come. I'm not invested in this anymore. I'm ready to move on.
Yeah, and we shall see. But if for some reason, somehow, some way, this is something that could happen, then you throw Russell Wilson into this. And another guy that I would think would have a very high price. I still think Deshaun Watson is the leader in the clubhouse for commanding the highest price, just because of his age and the fact that he hasn't even really hit his prime yet, whereas Russ is probably in it and is obviously going to decline. I don't think Russ is getting any better than he is. But still, I mean, you're talking what? At least 2 first-rounders, I would think, for Russell Wilson, if it was even on the table.
I think you're right about that.
Now,
I don't really think he's going anywhere.
I don't either. I would be more stunned by that than, man, I don't know what other trade in recent years I could think of in the NFL, especially, that would be as stunning to me as if Seattle just said, we're done with Russell Wilson and traded him somewhere. Now, Carson Wentz is apparently wanting out of Philadelphia, and they're trying to find a trade partner for him. And I'll be curious to see what Carson Wentz will cost a team. I would think you're looking at least a first-round draft pick.
Dude.
But I don't know. I don't know
I've
if
had
it
this
is.
conversation with myself. I don't see it. Literally, what has he done? And this is a what have you done for me lately league, which is why Doug Peterson got fired 3 years after the Super Bowl. I'm just being real. What has he done lately to command a first-round pick? Not a damn thing. Now, if you're Philadelphia, you say, hey, Matt Taylor, look at his potential. 2 years ago, he did this and this. He could do that for you in the right situation. Frank Reich can bring him back. Yeah. Okay, I listened to you. I heard you. I believed you. That's what he used to do. What's the last thing on his resume? What's the last thing we saw? Last thing we saw was he wasn't worth a shit, and y'all benched him. Why would I pay a first-round pick for that?
Yeah. That's kind of how I see it.
If you just say, what did you see in Carson Wentz? That's probably about a third-round pick. Now, you may have some competition, so maybe you have to up it to a second and a fourth. But he doesn't have any value. Oh, did we talk about his contract? I got to take that albatross too?
Yeah, and that would be my thing, is because it's a what have you done for me lately league. Carson Wentz hadn't done jack shit lately, because if the Eagles want a first, you want a first because you're saying, well, at one point he was that guy. Well, okay, cool. How do we know he ever is again? How do we know that mentally he's not just completely fried and can ever get back to the quarterback that we saw that was an MVP candidate, quite honestly, before he got hurt? And then he got hurt and he hasn't been the same guy.
No, you're right. And if he was all that good, how come y'all ain't keeping him?
A lot to that. And as you said, that is a big-time, monstrous contract that some team's going to have to absorb. You may be right. You may be able to get Carson Wentz, and that'd be interesting. If you don't have to give up a first-round pick, it costs you a second and a fourth to see if you can fix Carson Wentz. Some team out there will bite on that. Multiple teams, I would think, would be interested in Carson Wentz if you don't have to give up a first.
We'll see. We'll see what his value is, but it's all on potential now.
It is. It very much so is. He's still, God, man, he's young enough. I don't know. Carson Wentz is quite the conundrum when you look at what he was and the fall from where he was, of how drastic he dropped off. That would scare the hell out of me. I'll tell you, if I was running a team, I don't know that I sure as hell wouldn't give a first. But it'd be like the guy on Madden where you're like, okay, like he was a 94 rating and now he's an 80. And that's like a really weird drop off. Is it because of age? What happened? What's going on? And you can compute it to Madden. Seriously, anybody out there, would you trade a first round draft pick if you were playing Madden for Carson Wentz coming into the Carson Wentz you saw last year? That's the Carson Wentz you get to quarterback your Madden team. Nobody would do that.
Nobody would do that.
But guess what? They go, well, he would be better if I was playing with him. Okay, maybe. Or maybe his attributes have just fallen off and he's never going to get corrected. There's no way to know. There's a lot of risk with that Carson Wentz deal.
No, it's a ton of risk, man. And you don't want to get caught holding the bag because it may cost you your job.
And then the other thing, I mean,
I'm gonna say it right here, Matt. They won't get a first round pick for him.
I think you're right. I don't think they will either. I think it'll be a second and something else that some team will take a flyer on Carson Wentz, and it better be the right situation, man. Because again, I don't care where you go. All these guys around the league have guys around the league that they talk to and text on all these different teams. And if Carson Wentz gets traded to wherever it is, somebody on that team's going to know some of the Eagles guys and be like, hey, man, what's the deal with this dude? And you better hope that they're reaching out to the half of the locker room that liked you. Otherwise, you may walk into a situation where the guys are kind of looking at you side-eyed to begin with going, okay, well, you the real deal or not? It's weird, man. And the other one around the league is Ben Roethlisberger, who the Steelers, I mean, he's another money situation. He's got that huge number. Now, he said that he's willing basically to play for free, that he doesn't care what he gets paid. He'll restructure his contract, whatever. But then you got to say, if you're the Steelers, do you even want Big Ben to come back?
Dude, this is the problem with living legends. That is the toughest of toughest questions. Number one, he can't come back at the salary cap number that he's at right now. And so you have to talk to him and figure out, okay, you're going to give us the true hometown discount where it's, $18 million a year or something like that, just because you want to play. And so, I think the team has a lot of leverage, and you're right. They got to decide if they want him back. Based on what you saw at the end of last year, I think the answer is no. But, man, it is hard to tell a two-time Super Bowl champ you're not wanted. Now, I will say this. I think he said something about I'd like one last year. That ain't really, as an organization, me and Matt running this organization, I ain't really excited about a dude that says, hey, can I have one last year? You know what I mean? Because, you're already walking down that retirement path, brother.
I mean, you've been there forever. He turns, I believe it's 39. Yeah, he turns 39 in like 3 weeks. And you look at it and, he was serviceable last year, but there's obviously been a decline in what he's able to do. But like you said, how do you tell that guy? Because it is going to be a dead money cap. Like if they just cut him or whatever, I mean, you're eating a chunk of change. How do you tell that dude, hey, man, right. It's like we don't necessarily want you to come back. Like, please just retire.
Okay, now, see, he had a very interesting season, man.
He did. He wasn't horrible by any stretch.
See, I was going to say 3,800 yards passing, 33 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, but only 6.3 per attempt.
I was going to say, look at that, because that's quite a drop.
6.3 per attempt. Let's not count 2019 where he basically didn't play. 6.3 per attempt is 1.3 yards off his worst of his previous career. Think about that, man.
Yeah.
He'd never been below 7.3. But in the last 5 years, he'd never been below 7.5. He's at 6.3 last year. That's a tremendous drop off. But he did have a passer rating of 94.1, which is solid.
There's no way around it no matter what you do. If he gets cut, if they move on from him, you're talking about a $22.2 million dead cap hit.
10% of your cap, basically. Oh, no, it's more than that because cap's supposed to be, what, 180?
Yeah, so, I mean, and this is what's so crazy. Because Ben Roethlisberger, and this is what you would save, though, and this is what the Steelers are going to have to legit look at. It's 22.2 on their dead cap, but if they cut him, it's a $19 million cap savings because his number next year for 39-year-old Ben Roethlisberger is $41.2 million, which is like 23% of the cap. That is insane.
They have to redo the deal.
Right.
And the question is whether you're redoing it with thoughts of him coming back to play or whether you're doing like the Saints. Drew Brees redo his deal with thoughts that he won't come back to play. So you make it as cap friendly as possible so you can spread it out over a couple years and ease it a little bit. Hey, let me tell you something, dog. This on the real, Matt. Everybody talks about the Cowboys and Jerry Jones' philosophy of paying guys, and you kick the can down there far enough, and one day that bill is going to come due. Well, Other teams did the same damn thing, and them bills are coming due in a much bigger way than the Cowboys ever have.
Yeah, the quarterbacks are fascinating. The Saints situation, I mean, they are so far over the caps. There's going to be some really big name players that are going to be available in free agency because teams are just going to have to get rid of them. They won't have a choice. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But as we move forth here today with you guys in the conversation, now here's what happened. I'll tell you, I've got a lot of stuff going on, and for whatever reason, usually every other week, Jacques and I roll out to Rockwall and swing by Beer Geek Shop to pick up beers for Just a Sip. And we do Just a Sip once a week. And man, just with some new stuff that I've started, and for whatever reason, I woke up at 5 o'clock this morning. I was like, oh no, we didn't go to Beer Geeks this week. I was like, damn it.
Well, I'll take you further behind the curtain. I thought about it last night as I was walking into my SMU class. I'm like, ooh, I didn't get out to Beer Geeks today. And then I said, well, I'll send Matt a text, and I go, oh, no, he's doing trivia tonight, so he's probably not going to see it till late. I go, and so I was talking this through my head all the way back home from class. I go, I said, we could really get up and do the show. I could probably roll out there, be there like at 11, bring it back, and maybe we can get it done in the afternoon, early in the afternoon before he's got to do his other trivia tonight. And then the weather changed, and I was like, well, that ain't going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, that's part of the problem, man, is with the ice and everything. But, if you're in the area or once it warms up a little bit during the day, if you can swing out to Rockwall, check out Beer Geek Shop, local family-owned place. We've been telling you about Jason and Deidre for a long time now. Husband and wife that own that place. Everything in the store is available in singles. But what we wanted to do, since we're not going to try any new beers, we want to tell you a little bit about the Jam Session 6-pack because they have put together, and this is something really cool that we have done. The Jam Session 6-pack is 3 beers that I chose and 3 beers that Jacques picked out to make up the 6-pack that we each selected. You get 6 craft beers for $16.99, which is a crazy good deal. Only available for you at Beer Geek Shop. And I thought, when you look at this, man, I'll tell you this, one of my all-time favorite beers for a long time, and still, there's a couple of places around this area that we go to where it's on tap, and if they don't have anything new, I always will get this. And it's a part of the Jam Session 6-pack. It's a brewery out of Houston called Lone Pint, actually out of Magnolia, which is close down by Houston. And one of the beers it's called Yellow Rose, which is a phenomenal IPA. It was probably the original IPA that I thought, this is a few years back when they released it, that everybody was like, oh my God, Lone Pint Yellow Rose is the best IPA in the state of Texas.
Really?
Yes. And it used to be, before they upped their production and had a wider net of distribution, it used to be Lone Pint was really hard to come by. Yellow Rose was a really hard beer to find. And, it checks in at 6.8%, 62 IBUs. And I believe it's one of the only, I've had, I was just looking at this on my Untapped, I've had 4,500 check-ins of unique beers. And out of that, I've probably rated maybe 150 as a 5. And I remember the first time I ever had Yellow Rose, I gave it a 5.
Now, is it got that bitterness that you like? And
yes.
That dankness and all that stuff that makes me give the bitter beer face?
Yeah, it's not too bitter, but it's piney. It has a little bit of a floral kick to it. It's got some citrus. And the first time I ever had this, I had it on August 15th of 2015, and I gave it a 5, and I said, this is a top 10 IPA for me. This is phenomenal.
Well, hey, you haven't changed your mind, so that means your first instinct was good.
Yeah, it still holds up. I mean, it's not what it once was to me, but I'm going to tell you right now, it's still one of the top-level IPAs being brewed in the state of Texas, and we have it for you in the Jam Session 6-pack, which is awesome.
I pulled out this beer because, I mean, y'all know I like stouts, and now you may have figured out that I like kind of Scotch ales. That's kind of like my new thing. I picked one up the other day that I didn't tell Matt about. But I thought this had a very unique taste. This English style brown ale from, what was that, 512 Brewing?
Yeah.
And it's called Nut Brown. But we don't do a lot with brown ales. But I just thought it was unique, and it had kind of a, like, I don't like dank bitterness, but I do like coffee bitterness. And while it wasn't coffee, it just tasted close. It was something roasty about it that I was like, this is better and more different than I expected. And I thought other people, especially on a sampler, would get a kick out of trying something that was like different than what we usually try.
Yeah, and another one of my selections is the Three Nations beer. It's from their Devout series. It's a Mexican chocolate, which their Devout series is all their imperial milk stouts, which is different variations of that. And Three Nations, of course, is in Carrollton. It's one of my favorite breweries. I go there often. And man, this Mexican chocolate imperial milk stout is fantastic. I love a really good Mexican chocolate stout. There's not a lot of people, especially locally, that are making it. This has got a nice mouth on it. It's full of that flavor that you're looking for. You'll get that kind of milk chocolate flavor with a little bit of cinnamon and horchata. It's just nicely done. And at 8%, so it gives you a nice little bit of a kick to it. But, you know, that's one of those breweries. And sometimes when we put these together, I'm like, okay, I want to expose people to certain breweries. And so then I think, okay, well, Three Nations is one of my favorites. I know that they've got a great selection of various Three Nations beers at Beer Geek Shop. And then this one, I was like, let's put that in there. It's a really good beer, especially, you know, there's a couple of beers in here for as cold as it's going to be this weekend. Those are the types of beers, a nice 8-9% stout. You're sipping on that on Sunday or maybe Monday when it's freezing cold outside, and that'll give you a little bit of that warmth. Let's see what else is in here, because
I feel you on that.
We've got three more. You did Adios Pantalones, which is from Rar & Sons over in Fort Worth. And this is the one with the lemon and lime in it that's super light. It's only like 4.5% ABV, but that's one of those like crushable beers that has, which is interesting because generally speaking, you don't like that. But with the lemon and lime, I recall you like this one quite a bit.
Yeah. And what happened is it doesn't have as much of that yeasty, beery flavor that I don't like because of the lemon lime in it.
Yeah.
And it's light. I don't really like heavy beers unless it is a stout. But no, that's and Rar & Sons, they're my favorite lagers.
So there's that. And then you also had put in there, and I know you absolutely love this beer, and this is a fantastic coffee stout that Manhattan Project does. And we've talked about them before. They're close to downtown Dallas. It is Black Matter, which is their coffee stout. And man, this is a chocolate roast, little bit of vanilla, coffee, just deliciousness in a glass.
Now, let me give you some insight into this, Matt. This is also, listen to me carefully, Deidre's favorite coffee stout. It's the one she turned me on to first. She said, you got to try this. You'll love it. It's great. It's her favorite. And so now you know when you taste it, it's the Beer Geek woman's favorite beer.
Well, that's good to know. And so, you know, it's funny because this is what I like about the Untapped app is I was just going back through checking this out. And the first time I had Black Matter a couple of years ago, my comment on it was the coffee is light, cinnamon comes through with a touch of vanilla, great mouth and easy drinking. And Manhattan Project commented on my comment and said, exactly, you nailed it. So there you have it, man. And then the final one for me was the Hop Fusion, which is a brewery also over there in Fort Worth. And we've had this one before that we reviewed, and that is the Feisty Redhead, which is a take on their Feisty Blonde, like blonde ale. And Feisty Redhead is their blonde ale, but it has hibiscus and Mexican vanilla aged on hibiscus and cherries. And this one, see, this is what's interesting because you see, oh, it's a blonde ale. This is an 8.6% blonde. It's an imperial blonde. It has a thicker mouth than your normal, like, super thin blondes do.
Yeah.
And man, this thing is full of flavor. This is a really, really nice beer.
No, that's why it's the first 6-pack I ever bought. How about that? Did you know that, Matt?
I did not know that.
Feisty Redhead, the first 6-pack I ever bought for that very reason. It was unlike some other ones in terms of, y'all know I like beers with flavor, and this one has flavor.
Yeah, and It is very good. Those are the 6 beers in the Jam Session 6-pack. And so you can get that at Beer Geek Shop in downtown Rockwall. You can check it out. Just swing by, tell Deidre, Jason, whoever's working, is like, hey, here for the Jam Session 6-pack, and they'll get you taken care of. They have a lot of really good beers right now. I'll tell you this. They have a really good selection. Like, if you're willing to just go out and try some new things, they've got some stuff. There's a brewery out of Houston called B52 that makes some really fascinating stuff. And Deidre always has a really good representation of what B52 beers are on hand. So I would ask her, like, whatever flavor you're looking for, like Matt was talking about B52, and check into that. They've got some Fair State stuff, which is also really, really good. She always has a really good selection of Untitled Art, which is a brewery that collabs with a bunch of different breweries around the country. And they also, and you got one of these and you couldn't believe, you're like, damn, why? And it's pricey. I mean, look, sometimes when you get into craft beer, you will run across beers that can cost you $10, $12, $16 for a pint of beer. And some of you may be just chuckling going, what? I'm not doing that. But I will tell you, a lot of the times those beers are phenomenal. And you had that Great Divide. Was it the Peanut Butter Yeti?
Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, their Yeti series, she's running a thing with those for the Valentine's Day weekend. But, man, Great Divide Yeti is a stout, and they do a variety of variations on that, and they are all fantastic. And Great Divide is the craft brewery that I first went to that made me fall in love with craft beer in Denver.
Oh, see, I didn't know that.
Yeah. The very first beer I ever had, well, not the first one, but the craft beer that I had that made me hooked on craft beer was called Hades from Great Divide, which was a Belgian-style wit beer that I had at the brewery in Denver at the time, in case you were wondering.
I was going to say, you learn something new every day.
Yeah, you do. And, man, my beer fridge is ready to go. You know, unfortunately, I was hoping to have a bottle share this weekend for my birthday, but because of the weather and it was going to be freezing cold and just some other stuff going on, we decided we're still going to do a bottle share, but it'll probably be later on once it warms up a little bit and the sun stays out later. So that way we can hang out in the backyard and at 8 o'clock it's not pitch dark.
No, yeah, I feel you on that.
Yeah, so, because I thought, okay, so what are we going to do? We're going to tell people, hey, come over on Saturday night when it's 17 degrees outside.
Yeah, nah, I wasn't going to be there.
I think we're going to pass on that. But I do think I'm probably going to hang out at False Idol on Saturday for a bit in the evening and drink some of what those guys are putting out as far as beer goes. God. But yeah, man, get out to Rockwall, support them. Local, family-owned, like we said, Beer Geek Shop in downtown Rockwall, right off the square. Just such a phenomenal selection of a variety of local, whether it's local from Dallas or Texas or the region, all across the country and the world. They have a great selection, and everything is available in singles, which is awesome. Absolutely love that about them. And then hopefully next week we'll be able to get out there and we'll grab 3 new beers and we'll try those. But at least we went through the Jam Session 6-pack, so now you know.
And if you didn't, you do now.
Yes. Also, keep in mind, we do still have some T-shirts. If you guys are looking for T-shirts, you can hit me up, shoot me an email, matt@jamsessionpodcast. They're $20 plus shipping and handling. So shoot me an email and let me know what your size is, what color you want, and your shipping address, and we will get you taken care of on that. But man, lucky for you guys, we just knocked out like a 2-hour podcast for everybody.
Yeah, sit around the house and listen to it.
Yeah, so there you go. We appreciate it. Thanks so much for listening, man. It means a lot to us, your support here on the Jam Session Podcast. Find us on Instagram at Jam Session Cast. We're on Twitter at McMattRadio, at JJT_journalist. Thanks to Purple Elephant Music for the music you're hearing right now at the end. And of course, we played at the beginning of each episode. He is the radio and TV star, the sexy Jean-Jacques Taylor, and I'm just a guy, Matt McLaren. Tell your friends. Let's grow this thing and do it together, and we'll catch you next time, available everywhere you listen to podcasts.